Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II, here with Cody Almasi. Cody, how are we doing today, man?
Doing wonderful, man. Feels good to be back on the mic with you, my friend, and ready to discuss some college basketball.
Yeah, it feels great, and we've been talking about some changes that will be happening with the entire Gin Podcast network. This one is not exempt. So there'll be a lot of changes going on, some of them minor, some of them major. So just stay tuned for that. For everybody watching and listening in, stay tuned for all those changes that will be coming at you here in the next couple weeks and months. And we'll keep you in the loop on all of our social media outlets as well. So I hope you guys have been tuning in to the website, the new website that we got, ginsportsnetwork.com, right there at the bottom of your screen. Great website, great launch, a lot of great articles coming out. Cody and I and others will be putting some articles out, as long as, some specifically only writers will be putting some articles out there of happenings that regard and revolve around the sports world. So look forward to that coming soon as well. But yeah, stay tuned for everything that we got. Really excited for tonight's show, though, getting really into college basketball now. Now, we can put college football a little bit in the back, the rear view mirror. It's not completely out of our minds. There's still a lot of stuff going on recruiting wise, maybe even some coaching carousel stuff might still be in the works. Jim Harbaugh is kind of, on the fence. Maybe we can start with that. Let's start with that. I'm sure you've been familiar with what the talks of how the Raiders have been, proposing an offer, thinking about proposing an offer to head coach Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Do you think that he'll jump ship, or do you think he'll stay?
Yeah, it's tough to say. By the way things have played out, you'd have to think that if he gets the right offer from the right team, he might go back to the NFL. Maybe he believes that he has reached the peak here at Michigan. He brought them to the playoffs when nobody expected him to, took a pay cut, and then said, watch this, and took him to the playoff where he witnessed two SEC teams just battle it out for the championship after getting blown out by one of them. So maybe he feels that he's took Michigan as far as they can go, and that the gap as far as recruiting and NIL capabilities just aren't there at Michigan. You'd think that the recruiting would be, but SEC and Ohio State beat Michigan all the time. So maybe that's where his head is at. I would have thought we'd have at least some kind of answer or more of an insight by now. But yeah, everybody's really just speculating. And I bet you Jim Harbaugh is sitting back and enjoying it.
Yeah, there's a lot up in the air still regarding Jim Harbaugh and everything that's, all the talks have been happening. He is the talk of the town, especially amongst Michigan fans. A lot of people have came to me and said, "Oh, what do you think he's going to do? You think he's going to stay?" I'm like, you got to ask yourself that. If you're a Michigan fan, if you follow Michigan football, you have to know whether or not he's going to stay or not. He's been there for a while. He found probably the most success that he's found ever at this school this past year, getting to the having natty potential, and obviously falling to Georgia, but having a lot of potential, and you think that he'd have that taste. Now, if he won the championship, now that's a reason to be like, okay, I'm happy with my legacy here. Probably can't do much better than that, given the years and the teams that I've had already. Maybe you do get hungrier. Maybe you want to get more, or maybe you can say, what, I'm good with my legacy here and what I've been able to do here at Michigan. Now I can jump ship. But being that close, I mean, there's still unfinished business. There's still, you're still in game 3 or 4 of your career at Michigan. So you got to consider that as well. What do I have yet to accomplish? What have I accomplished? And is there unfinished business or not? I think that's a question that Jim Harbaugh has to ask himself.
Yeah, and his family, is deeply rooted here in Michigan. His dad lives right in Ann Arbor, and it's hard to think he'd want to leave a situation like Michigan, going to be at the top, at least top 3 or 4 of the Big Ten East every year. Just be who you are, and you have full reins, full autonomy here as the head coach. And if you go to like a situation like the Raiders or the Bears or the Dolphins, that could be a 2-year stint. You could stay at Michigan for as long as you want. You never know what's going to happen in these NFL gigs. Wild things happen. And look at John Gruden and Brian Flores, people like that. Nick, is it Coley, the guy who got fired at Houston, had a decent year for what was handed to him and gone. So the NFL is a rough place, and stakes are high, and the cutthroat business up there. So
yeah, it's a dog eat dog world, the NFL. That has to be noted. That has to be considered, because like you said it perfectly. It could be a 2-year stint whereas you have pretty much the reins, you have the abilities to do whatever you want for as long as you want. As long as you don't go like 0-15 or whatever you could have to go. As long as you don't lose, have losing seasons, I don't think you have to worry about that. Michigan has a high recruiting class. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You're going to have a good team year after year, and basically you're molding those players into the NFL. You're going to make them into the athletes that they will be for the rest of their lives, rest of their playing careers. So I think that molding aspect really gives a college gig more luster. Also, you have, more years. Your contracts are usually longer in college. The money is still there. I mean, how much, if you're someone like Jim Harbaugh, any coach that has been a coach for a while, has had that taste of that salary, how much more money do you think you need to be chasing? I mean, that's we're talking big money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Michigan, if they want to keep him, I'm sure they're going to have to fork out big money anyway and make him one of the top paid college football coaches. And
right.
It also, if you got to think about it, if he goes back to the NFL, he already did pretty well in the NFL with the 49ers. So you already set the bar so high for yourself. And I don't think that any of the teams that are proposing that he could maybe land have the kind of talent that 49ers team did back then. So I don't think it's a smart move. I think maybe he's just trying to leverage a bigger contract like Mel Tucker or James Franklin got, something like that. Get the bag.
Yeah, definitely. It's just an interesting perspective to think about Harbaugh, what he's been able to accomplish at Michigan. The history that he has at Michigan. That also has to be brought into play. Who is this guy? All right. What has he done? Is he loved? Is he hated? I feel like he's, there's a good split between the middle. There's
He's
a lot of people that hate him.
polarizing.
He's very polarizing, but that's great for the Michigan program, I think. And that's coming from a Michigan State fan. I love seeing Harbaugh on the sidelines. I love seeing him throw clipboards, break headsets, get in the ear of the ref, and just chew his ass right out. That's something that I really like to watch, and it has that watchability. And he even had that in the NFL, but seeing it at Michigan at the college level, it reminds me kind of the, I did the article on this about Izzo chewing the ass out of Aaron Henry on the sidelines against Bradley in the 2019 March Madness tournament. I like seeing that type of coaching happen because that's something that we're moving away from as a culture. And as long as we can stay with that and kind of keep that mentality alive, I think that, it's going to be great for the sport, no matter if it's college football, college basketball, track, field, whatever, anything college sports, that's building and molding athletes into who they will be someday. So I think that it's, obviously his decision. We've seen a lot of crazy decisions be made from coaches that we thought would never leave, the Brian Kellys, the Lincoln Rileys, those guys we thought were, staple guys. Those guys we thought were going to stay there at their colleges until they retire, until they were done. That is not the case. So we'll have to see how this develops. We'll let you guys know as more news is broken on this, but it's still up in the air right now. So interesting stuff. Moving on, let's talk about some college basketball. We'll talk about the handicapping aspect first. So right now, we've kind of, put a halt on the Discord, on the betting packages that we said we're going to come out the first. We had to do some restructuring. There's some things that are kind of moving. There's a lot of moving parts with this. Cody, just tell me your process, because me, you, and my brother actually have been really diving deep into the college basketball handicapping game, the scheme. And we've been doing it, here and there, before this, but getting into it very seriously now. I guess, what do you have as far as the process? How would you explain the process to the people as far as what we're going through on a daily basis, mind you? On a daily basis, we're having conversations, talking about things that are going on, news that's breaking, injuries, things like that. How would you explain that process?
Yeah, we're kind of we go out each on our own. We get a collection of games, we offer them up to one another, and then we do deep dives into the analytics of each game, how they play out, the team totals for each, the top scores for each team, how their defenses look, how they play on the road, the win streaks, how hot they've been lately, that type of thing. And we got to take risks. It's betting. That's what gambling is, taking risks and capitalizing on those risks to bring more capital back into our pockets. But we try to get as many locks, as many for sure picks as we can, whether that be the handicap, the spread, the money line, alternate overs if we have to, because these things are hard to get down to a science, but that's what we're trying to do. And we're fine tuning the algorithms and our processes, and we're getting there. I think we're getting ready to release this Discord, because we're getting right there. We're getting close to
we are right
there.
there.
Picks. Yeah,
we are right there. We just want to have all the things, all of our systems fine-tuned, like Cody said. A well-oiled machine is what I like to explain it as. And if we can make it a well-oiled machine sooner than later, that's what we're going to do. But we're not going to rush anything. So we're not going to rush anything. We're going to get into it and make sure we provide the best product to our potential subscribers that will be getting on the Bet with Gin Discord for college basketball. College basketball segment will be dropping first as far as picks are concerned, for the betting service that we're going to be dropping here in the next few weeks or months. It could be months. We're hoping it's weeks, but it could be months. So stay tuned for that. And there will be a free segment for about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, just kind of how we want to feel it out, do a couple free picks for the people, see how they want to feel it out, build that trust with the clientele, and basically get to it. So that's a little bit of our process. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the process in a nutshell. So that's the betting aspect. That's the handicapping. That's what's going on behind closed doors. Let's get into the college basketball segment of the show now. This is the meat of the show. You have the bun, you have the lettuce, you have the tomato, you got the mustard, the condiments, whatever you got. This is the meat. This is the Angus, right? So, Cody, talk to me. Let's start with Big Ten basketball. How we thinking about the Big Ten? How we feeling? How are the standings looking?
We got five. There's 5 Big Ten teams that are ranked in the top 25. So the Big Ten is chaotic. There's a lot going on. Purdue is ranked 4th in the country, but they're actually 7th in the Big Ten. So make of that what you will. But Purdue, they're a great team, but they just have had some tough losses in conference. So that's why they're down there. But Wisconsin, Michigan State, they're two teams facing off tonight. They're both looking great. Michigan State, they just suffered a loss to Northwestern, buzzer beater. But besides that, Sparty has looked lethal of late. The only thing, their turnovers are definitely an issue. I think they have the most in the Big Ten. So got to clean it up there. But lots of stuff to love. That game's such a toss-up. We're staying far away from that as far as any bets or picks are concerned, because I don't think there's anything that is a lock in that game. Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. We've been really good, too, about calling out the trap games, finding the trap games, knowing where they're at, knowing not to bet them, knowing to bet them if you have to, knowing which way you're going to lean. But we've been burned before, and our record just, in the pre-trials here would be way better if we would have stayed away and would not touch these trap games with a 20-foot pole, because there's knowing the trap games, finding the trap games, realizing where they are, it is key. But just to talk about Michigan State real quick, they came way too close against Minnesota. That was a buzzer beater. Joey Hauser underneath the hoop.
Yeah.
With the, with the Northwestern game, we knew that they were going to be a hard test. Yes, they're sitting towards the lower on the scale of the Big Ten standings, but we knew that they were going to be a threat. We knew that they were going to be. So cutting it too close, you can only get lucky for so long. That goes for anything. That goes for sports betting. That goes for, doing whatever where that involves a significant amount of risk, and cutting things too close like Michigan State has done. And they've let themselves go awry with the turnovers. The turnovers are too much. Tom Izzo stated that in interviews. So you got to look at that, and you got to consider everything. There's a lot of missing pieces to this puzzle as far as Michigan State is concerned. And I'm concerned about it. So that's what concerns me about tonight's game against Wisconsin. Tumbled over my words a little bit, fumbling. But Michigan State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, I believe, is +3. Like I told Cody before, if we were at +7, +8 for Michigan State, coming off a loss against Northwestern, which probably shouldn't have happened, should never been that close, I can see them giving State a couple more points, especially Wisconsin being at home. I don't know. What do you think about that as far as the spread, MSU, Wisconsin tonight?
Yeah, we were talking about it pre-show. Wisconsin is one of the hottest teams in college basketball right now. They've won 7 straight since they lost, I think, December 11th to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Haven't lost since, so that's a month and 10 days since they've last suffered a loss, and they're playing out of their minds. They beat the team that they last lost to on Thursday in the Buckeyes, and Johnny Davis is leading the charge. He's at his 22.1 points a game. That's second in the Big Ten and 5th in the NCAA. He also leads the Badgers in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So he's doing it all. And you know that Brad Davison is going to be there too, making big plays and getting you some buckets. But it's just hard for me as a Michigan fan, and being bearing witness to Tom Izzo and his greatness. It's hard to bet against him, after a loss, and how he sounded after the loss, how he talked to the media, and how critical he is on his own team. He's going to coach those guys up and have them in a good place, a good mental state tonight. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, I think he will too. They're going to be going in ready to battle. And as soon as Michigan State faces adversity in a loss, which sometimes they'll get on a hot streak, which they were, and they get humbled with that loss to Northwestern right there. And that's going to change the mentality in the locker room. It's going to change the mentalities in practice, and pregame meetings and talks with coaching staff. It's going to change a lot of that stuff. So there's a little bit of a stirring of the pot. And unfortunately, this is a commonality within Michigan State athletics, is the spot or the bowl, the pot has to get stirred for there to be more success, more improvement. And they just can't keep that consistent movement of improvement. And it's just like they get stagnant, they get too comfortable. They're like, Northwestern, we can handle that. It's not a big deal. We can just do our thing. No, you got to get back to your systems, get back to everything that you've learned, everything you've been taught in practice. I know Tom Izzo is instilling a lot of these values into these players. He's been doing it for, over 2 decades. Okay, this is not something that's new to the Michigan State basketball program. They have to focus on that, get back to their roots, and be like, you know what, we can't be, thinking we're hotter than any other team out here. They were sitting at number 10. Now they're at 14. you can slip real easy. Like we said in the early stages of the season, you're sitting there at 14-3. It's a lot easier to drop than it is to go up and advance, especially the higher up you start. We've seen that happen with Michigan. So there's a lot of things that have to get changed, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that have changed. We can expect to see, hopefully, those changes tonight in tonight's game at 9:00. But only time will tell.
As much as Johnny Davis, he's just lighting up the stats. Michigan State, they got some players on the Big Ten leaderboard as well. Marcus Bingham Jr. leads the Big Ten in blocks. Tyson Walker and AJ Hogard are 3rd and 5th, respectively, in assists. And Malik Hall is 4th in total field goal percentage in the Big Ten, but he is 3rd nationally in 3-point percentage. So Malik Hall knocks it down from outside. Everybody knows that. And a lot of these players are going to be around for another year or two. So it's good. It's good for Sparty fans. And before they lost to Northwestern, they were arguably the hottest team, not losing since like Thanksgiving against Baylor, if I'm not wrong. So, yeah, Michigan State, they could end. Hot streaks have to come to an end. That's one thing about them. So maybe the Spartans channel some energy and end Wisconsin's tonight.
Yeah, they're going to have to count on Tyson Walker, AJ Hogard, Marcus Bingham, Malik Hall, Hauser, Tyson Walker, all these guys. They got to come together. They're starting to build that chemistry. I still don't know if they have a leader. Is it Tyson Walker? Is it AJ Hogard? Is it Joey Hauser? I don't think it's Joey Hauser, but I think it can be one of those guys. They don't have an Aaron Brown or a AJ Brown. Who am I thinking of? Aaron Henry. AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Thinking NFL. Aaron Henry. They don't have an Aaron Henry, and he was even a partial leader. He was like kind of a guy that was a facilitator. He got things done. He got people around him. He rallied players around him, but was he a leader? I don't know. The last leader I truly saw at Michigan State was Kalen Lucas. And that was back in the early 2000s. Okay, so, and Cassius Winston, too. Cassius Winston, you got to give him a lot of credit. He was a facilitator. He grew into that role, though. He was not in that role immediately, but he grew very well into that role. Okay, so, bringing that together, harnessing that, seeing that even in the football, regard is essential in success in the team. Did we see that in Peyton Thorne this year in MSU's football team? I don't think so. So having a leader, having someone, it doesn't have to be the quarterback, it doesn't have to be the point guard. It has to be someone that can be rallied around, that can, harness that energy and be able to use it to the team's benefit. I don't see that at Michigan State yet. They've been finding a lot of success, and I wish them to find more success. But to do that, they have to keep staying hungry, and they have to find that facilitator that's going to be able to lead the team into March. So really important stuff there. What else college basketball related do we have to talk about? Let's talk about Duke. What's happening with Duke lately?
Yeah, they've lost the last 2 of their last 4 games, and having some growing pains, to say the least. Coach K, I think he's missed one of those games because of some COVID issues. But yeah, no excuse when you're one of the best teams. You have the best recruiting class every year. You need to be winning these games. And Duke, Florida State, that was one of those trap games that got us a little bit. And we kind of had too much faith in the Blue Devils and their abilities, and we underestimated the Seminoles. And that's on us, but we will own up to. I think that was 4 out of 5 that night, though, besides that game.
That was 4 out of 5, and I'll try to pull that bet slip up for everybody right now just so we can kind of feel the pain together. But, yeah, talking about Duke a little bit, they let me down against Florida State, but I said this is how it was going to bite me. I talked about this in the group chat. This is how it's going to bite me more. This is how it would hurt more, is if I would have bet Duke money line, which would have been the safe bet. It was Duke -5 against Florida State at Florida State, and they were playing hot. They were clicking. They were finding the holes within Duke in their offense and their defense. So they were really battling hard, and it didn't feel good to see that happen from a betting perspective. But I guess just knowing Duke and not really, because Duke's, they've been on hot streaks. They've been, in the Final Four, going to the finals almost, every year for a good amount of the time. So when we see that, it's, and I think they're an easy team to hate.
We had that marquee matchup between Duke and Gonzaga early on, and the Blue Devils actually beat Gonzaga, who is the number 1 ranked team once again. So I think definitely that win and that performance maybe made people think a lot higher of Duke than what they are. We'll see what the rest of their season is, what Paolo Banchero can do. and Coach K in his last season. Just for Coach K's sake, I'd like to see them do well this year. At least, Sweet 16. You don't want to see
Yeah,
him.
definitely for Coach K's sake, is his last year. He wants to end strong, make a run. I think they have the team to do it. But they're gonna have to make a run. They're gonna have to make some adjustments, just like Michigan State is. There's a lot of big teams, a lot of big name teams that are finding struggles early on, which is
Baylor was one of the hottest streak that winning the championship last year, coming into this year. They hadn't lost all year, and they've lost 2 games in the last week and a half. So, every team, like you said, is kind of going through those growing pains, struggling, mid-season struggles as we enter conference play.
Yep, exactly. So it's getting interesting. We're getting into February here in the next week or so. So there's going to be a lot of great games coming up. And that'll lead us right into March, where we'll have a lot to talk about regarding college basketball. We're going to be talking about a lot more. But let's just dive into this, this bet slip here. For those of you guys listening in, try to navigate to the video version of this show just so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. But I'll talk you guys through it, even if you're listening here on audio only. So my first pick of the night, this was, what day was this? This was a couple days ago. This was on Wednesday. So Davidson Wildcats against the VCU Rams, MSU's own Foster Lawyer doing it and getting it done over there at Davidson. Steph Curry's alma mater. They have athletes that come out of Davidson. Okay. They do. So I took them plus 120 against VCU at VCU to win money line. They were not favored in that game, plus 120. That hit. That was my underdog pick. You like to throw one of those in your parlays and feel good about it. That really boosts the odds, along with the multiplier. It really makes things look right. So that, and then we'll just skip that second leg right there real quick. I had Wisconsin minus 2.5 against Northwestern. I thought that was a lock. I'm really confident in Wisconsin and their offense to be able to get past Northwestern. Unless you just give them the ball away, you really shouldn't have a close game with Northwestern. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but you got to be able to get them out of the way. You got to figure them out. And those teams that will get in your way, they have nothing to lose. They're sitting towards the bottom half of their conference, rankings. They're playing with nothing to lose. They're going to be playing, and doing things that they don't usually do. That's how they beat Michigan State. I didn't think that'd be an issue.
That's how they play you in football and basketball, honestly.
Oh, 100%. They are just a burr in our side,
matches up with the Sparty. It's like great for whatever
It's crazy.
reason.
Nebraska can get thrown into that category too for basketball and football, but mostly football. So I thought Wisconsin would take care of them minus 2.5. They did. Then I got the Jayhawks money line against the Oklahoma Sooners. That one had me sweating quite a bit. That went down to the last few minutes, but they pulled out the win, minus 170. And then I had the over 128.5 with Iowa State in the Cyclones versus the Texas Tech Red Raiders at minus 110. That one really had me sweating, but I think they hit 132. So whoever put that together and made those odds really did their job. And then, as you can see, that one squirrely little leg that didn't hit was Duke minus 5 against the Florida State Seminoles. And that one really hurt. So we can kind of take that how we want to. We can just take it with a grain of salt. And that's been the story of the week, really. There's been a lot of one leg missing parlays that have happened. 5-leg parlays. They're not easy to hit. College basketball is the hardest sport in sports betting to bet correctly over time. So we can start to see that a little bit right now. But this is going to happen. We have to be able to bounce back and do what we have to do. Do that little bit more of research. But I don't even know how you could have done this one and called this one differently. Unless, even if you took Duke money line, that bet slip just doesn't hit. So that gives me a little bit more comfort at least, but it still sucks. But that's something that any sports bettor has had to deal with. I've talked to Seth. He's been dealing with, a lot of things that in that regard as well. So it's just those one leg missers. And we've seen it. You've came close to this.
Happened to me twice in NBA games. With LeBron hitting a garbage bucket to hit the over, and then the Denver Nuggets beating the Clippers in overtime. Man, if either one of those things, 2 separate parlays would have hit. And then I think we both had the same exact bet slip with the St. John's game as well. Yeah, that was the only one that
against Creighton. Yep.
Fucking St. John's Red Storm.
We couldn't have done more research on that game.
We did, yeah.
On that game, we did extensive research on both teams. I looked back, the last 10 games, not the last 5 games, the last 10 games of each team. You went through player statistics, things like that. I'm like, you know what? Creighton's been falling to some teams. They've been doing this consistently throughout their whole season. I think St. John's +3 can hit, and not even close. But you got to live with it, rock with it. You got to be able to find those abnormalities and be able to see, okay, this is good information. This is good, stuff I got to retain. And this is stuff I got to put to the wayside. It's not as important. and be able to differentiate those two types of information is key in sports handicapping, not just college basketball, but especially in college basketball. So look forward to that. We love talking about this type of stuff too. This is basically our bread and butter. So we love talking about it. This is something that, we're open about. As far as some of our extensive processes, we might not get too much into it just because, for obvious reasons, but there's a lot of information out there. So I'm going to tell you.
Can't give away the 7 herbs and spices,
No way, Jose. But yeah, that's good. So it's really, it's fun. It's fun betting college basketball. But Cody, I think you had some success this week betting some other things. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, NFL and NBA, we were able to put together some same game parlays. As far as the Rams and Cardinals game, hit pretty big on there. $20 bet turned to 800. The specifics escape me, but I know that Sony Michel, I needed him to finish with under 59.5 yards, and old boy finished with 58, and he got subbed out on the finishing drive for Tyler Funk. And he got, so that's like you said, I think an $800 substitution by Sean McVay there. And man, I had like written it off in my head already because I had watched like the first quarter and a half and seen like no James Conner. And I was like, man, fuck. And just like got out of there.
They put him in like right in the red zone. He ran like a pass play, almost got in.
He had 4 carries, yeah.
Yeah, but they put him in. They just put him in to score touchdowns, and they've been doing that all season. I think that might be why you picked him.
Yeah,
and they put him in. They ran in the short little counter draw play. They ran it right in. And they scored on that thing. Barely scored that second play too. But he got it in there. Once I saw that hit, I'm like, wow, this has a really good chance of hitting.
I was watching that game. I'm like watching all the Marvel movies right now. So I was like deep into that, and you're like, hey dude, all these things are lining up, and I'm like, hold up.
I was like, whoa. I was like, why isn't Cody responding? I was like, look at this. There's the parlay right here.
Oh, there we go. Yes, sir.
So Rams money line, Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown score. That's a pretty good pick to count on. Then the Kyler Murray under 255.5. I'm surprised they put him that high just because he's been playing like absolute dog shit lately. Hasn't been putting any numbers up really through the air. If anything, his
like
the ball.
Season average was pretty high. I think over 300. So I think that's like that was
the first 6 weeks though. That's the first 6 weeks.
Yep. I was gonna say that he trended so far down, and I thought that I looked at how they played against each other the last time they matched up and felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, that was good. And then Sony Michel under 59.5. How many running yards did he have?
58.
58 covered by 1.5 yards.
Fell forward by his body length, and that's 6.5 feet.
But he had that 35-yard pass.
Yeah, 35-yard run. His second carry was like a 35-yard just run, and I seen that away. I seen that too, and I was like, God damn, dude. So
that was real early in the game too.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's how it is. It's a game of inches, just like football. Betting is a game of inches. Here, let's talk about that other one now.
The NBA, yep. Tried the hand in some NBA same game parlay as well. It was the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards. And I'm looking at the Nets Spurs game tonight for some action as well. I was looking at that before the show, and I think there's some potential there. But this one was super close as well. Kyrie Irving hits a 3, and it's over for me. Or gets one more rebound. Yeah. Or if Kyle Kuzma, he hits another bucket. He finished with 16, I think. Kyrie Irving had 4 rebounds. James Harden had 9 assists. Kyrie Irving hit 2 threes. Yeah, so
inches.
I was walking around Meyer, and I could not shop. I was just locked into the game pacing.
That's insane. Yeah, that's the kind of endorphins that get fired from sports betting, and that's the thrill you want to chase. That's the thrill that everybody wants to chase. The only thing is too, and we'll get enough talk about this, betting IQ. Make sure you're smart about what you're doing. You're always watching, your bankroll, having bankroll management, things of that nature. That's stuff that we'll get into in a more advanced session. We might even make some specific videos for the Discord for that. So look forward to that as well. But there's a lot more that goes into it than just the glam and the luster of a great looking bet slip like this. Because you got to be smart about what you're doing. Good stuff.
And the Nets only won by 1 point, so They barely covered that money line, so it was.
I mean, in a lot of areas, that's like any one thing
Anything
can
could have
happen and
busted,
blow that
yeah.
entire slip up.
Just even right now, the current betting slip that I got going for the night, I need Illinois to cover 4.5, and Maryland's taking it to them. It's 29-29 with 4 minutes to go in the first half. You know,
Oh boy.
Maryland just come off that Michigan ass whooping. Michigan whooped their ass in Ann Arbor this week on Tuesday. Yeah, so Cody loves the unders.
Bang,
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 12:30.
12:30.
Who is that? You know who that is?
I have no idea who that is.
Dang.
They're on Twitch.
Yeah. Cody loves them unders.
I
Loves it.
do find myself flirting with the unders quite often. It's not it burns me now and then, but sometimes it works out right.
Yeah, right. I got a comment from Sobo here. Wisconsin by 10. Whoo. Sobo's the biggest state fan that I know. He's given me a lot of insights. He told me to throw the house on MSU at least making it to the finals this year. So I don't know if that's a comment that's putting that bet in question. But Wisconsin by 10, that's a bold take. They've been playing well. They're playing well. They're at home. Yes, the spread is 3, obviously in Wisconsin's favor. So we'll see what happens tonight. I'm pulling for the Sparties a little bit more. Oh, this is Ray. Ray is commenting here. This is my boy Ray.
Okay.
What's up, Ray?
What's
you doing,
good,
buddy?
Ray? Yep, I love the unders, Ray.
Yes, he does. No, still like MSU long term. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So do you like MSU long term going, into the future or just going into March? Sobo, I'll let you answer that one.
I'm interested to see what Sobo, who he thinks comes out of the Big Ten, with Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Purdue, and OSU.
Right. I think something we got to focus on right now is just who's going to be at the top of the Big Ten once March comes along, because that's going to be who's going to be really a huge contender going into March and into the championship. So we'll focus on that. We'll look forward to that as well. The
Big Ten tournament is going to be more competitive than like so many years previous.
Oh yeah, a lot of major league hitters in the Big Ten this year, so you got to keep an eye out for everybody. Nobody is exempt. So yeah, he's talking about March. He still likes MSU going into March. I think if they develop, they grow, they make the changes they have to. I think they can find that success and really be a really great team going into March. I think they can be, definitely an Elite Eight-esque team. And that's speaking objectively. So I want to see them find success. I want to see them do well, but there's missing pieces, missing parts that they have to fix. So I'll leave it at that. As far as Michigan State, beat that like a dead horse tonight. But yeah,
my Wolverines really I seen on Lunardi's bracketology, they are the second 4 out, so that would make them like the 72nd ranked team. It's rough considering to where expectations were entering the season, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. It's disheartening. It's not, Michigan and Juwan Howard, especially Juwan Howard, how he runs his program. We don't expect to see this. Even the John Beeline era, we didn't expect to see this out of Michigan. No matter basketball or football, you want to see them do well. He's at least be ranked or close. You don't want to be seeing them at 72nd rank, right? So they got some building to do. But hopefully they can figure it out too going into March, because they got some time. So, but what time is the playoff show tomorrow? Great question. It's yet to be determined. But I do want to get on here, at least on Instagram, and talk about some of the live football games going on tomorrow. So I'm excited for it. And NFL is heating up. We'll get into that
we
too.
Could get together and go on between the Bengals Titans game and the 49ers Packers.
Definitely. I'm down. We can get some work together and make it happen, get the news out, get the show going for the people. I'd love to talk about some of the major things, the big moving parts happening in the NFL, a lot of stuff happening. Things are getting interesting going into the final weeks here. So Look forward to that as well. But we'll start to wrap up the show now. Cody, you got any final statements before we sign off?
Yeah, no, not really. Go Illinois. Help me win some more money tonight. And I'm excited to watch this Michigan State game tonight, see what the Sparty's got in Badger Town.
Me too. I'm looking to see if they have what it takes, at least to cover that 3 points. That's all I'm asking. Maybe, you got a little bit of, things to work out. If you don't win, you don't win, but cover. Okay.
Oh, also,
that's what I gotta say.
21 days, 3 weeks without pop, switch to the vitamin water. So
Wow.
that was my New Year's
Congratulations.
resolution. And I took John's word advice and I'm sticking to it. So
Good for you, brother. Good for you.
no soda.
No soda.
Still
It's
throwing
tough.
back the beers though.
Oh
What it is.
yeah, you can't throw the beers out. That's how I am too. I gotta, I can't stay away from the beer skis. But it is what it is. Good stuff. Good show today. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned to all of our social media posts, all the updates on the website, articles, updates, news, everything that gets broken on there. You can see it. You can also see the IG stream that is right below on the desktop version of the website as well. So make sure you're staying tuned to that for all updates happening on our IG that are pretty consistent with what happens on the website. So if you got to get in touch with us, get in touch with us through our link tree down at the bottom of your screen. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you guys again for tuning into the Gin College podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II with Cody Almasi. Have a great night.